Howdy, welcome to the MasterCast. I'm your host, Ben Wiggins, and we are fired up for today's discussion. The vision of the MasterCast is to connect prospective members to our Maze community by painting the picture of Aggieland through different voices and perspectives. Today's guest, Matthew Rother, graduated from the United States Air Force Academy with a Bachelor of Science in Management in 2011. Matthew served for 9 years on active duty as a tactical air control party officer, where he specialized in integrating fire support for various service components and advising the leaders of a given battle space. Matthew gained valuable leadership experience as a flight commander and also had the opportunity to graduate from U.S. Army Ranger School and Jumpmaster School, among other qualification courses. Currently, Matthew is VP of Sales and Operations at Oakmont Group, a boutique life insurance firm specializing in wealth transfer and business planning. We welcome Matthew Rother to the show. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks for having me on.
It is our pleasure. You graduated from U.S. Army Ranger School and Jumpmaster School. Can you tell us a bit about these qualification courses? What motivated you to take part and to succeed?
Well, I was in the Air Force, obviously, but I got the opportunity to go to Ranger School kind of as an aside to or as a boost kind of for my career. So we work oftentimes with the other joint services, and this school is the Army calls it their premier leadership course, and that's kind of really what it's geared towards. It's, hey, how do we get in, learn to lead under stress, and lead your peers? And so getting the opportunity to do that was a really fun experience, and I guess what motivated me to do that was just the opportunity to really kind of boost my, I'll say like street cred in a way. And it was just a good challenge to run after. And so getting to go through that course, it was a lot of fun. And on the back end, I'll say it was a lot of fun. It sucked pretty bad going through it, but getting to finish that course and to really push through, there were lots of days and many nights that you just lay there and kind of wonder why. And it was really fun to be able to kind of find that intrinsic motivation, the kind of digging back into your, why am I here? What am I doing? And using that to kind of motivate you through that course. And then Jumpmaster was just a kind of the next logical step to being airborne. So you get to go through the airborne course, which is also an Army course, so that it's an insertion method, if you follow that at all. And so getting to go through that, and it's just a skill set that you have that kind of builds on your overall skill set to be able to apply to the missions.
How much did the subtle and maybe not so subtle differences between the branches show up as you cross over from the Air Force to the Army? Like, there's different lingo that gets used. I'm not experienced in all of this, but yeah. How did that manifest?
So thankfully, because of where we work, I was already pretty familiar with all the lingo and what was going on, how to communicate, things like that. I will say that, and I got asked this question a lot, is like, hey, was it weird as an Air Force guy going through an Army course? And at the end of the day, the really neat thing that I think I learned from these experiences was that at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, what branch you're from. If you wore, I always say if you wore like a purple uniform or a yellow uniform or a green or a blue uniform, it doesn't really matter. That you get the opportunity to show your skill set, and it's really kind of merits based. So if you're a contributing member of the team, nobody really cares what color uniform you're wearing.
I want that sweet purple uniform.
Yeah,
that sounds exciting. You are currently the Vice President of Sales and Operations at the Oakmont Group. What is your career entail now for our audience, and how do those differences manifest?
Yeah, so now, again, sales and operations, what I do on a day-to-day basis is a far cry from what I did in the military. And I always kind of joke that I went from probably the largest and most robust organization in the world in the Department of Defense into one of the smallest and least structured organizations in a kind of a small boutique firm. Yeah. And so what's been really fun is to watch how some of the lessons that I learned in the bigger organization get to apply themselves to where I am now. And so I get to as kind of an operations guy, I get to build processes. I get to work through, the structures of the office and how do we grow our team and structure appropriately to do that. And so that's been really fun to kind of translate that stuff. And then also just on the side of, going through things like Ranger School and airborne and being a Joint Terminal Attack Controller, JTAC, all these qualifications that I did in the military and just my baseline job in general, just all of the kind of the determination and being able to persevere and all those skill sets that you learn, problem solving, things like that, they still apply, right? So it doesn't matter if you're a part of a big organization. If you're going to contribute, you need to work through those things. So
tell us a little bit more about what Oakmont does. What is your day-to-day business?
Yeah, so Oakmont Group it's just a little boutique life insurance firm, and we work primarily in the wealth transfer space and then with closely held businesses. So we get the opportunity to kind of come alongside families and business owners and learn what their goals are, and then how can we serve those goals with life insurance. And so, primarily we want to know first, what are your goals? And then we want to work with, get aligned with your other advisors, your other team, and make sure that what we're doing is not done in silos. And, oftentimes we'll see planning done, one expert doing their planning in one silo and one in another. And we want to try to merge all those things together so that what we're doing is merged into one plan. And then finally we'll build what we call fact-specific planning around you as an individual. So what is your fact pattern? And then how do we kind of build life insurance products that meet that fact pattern?
Yeah, that sounds fun. I want to find out what my fact pattern is. All right. What was the most challenging part of the transition originally?
Yeah, so probably the most challenging part was trying to figure out what, basically like how to structure my own time, I guess. So coming out of a big organization, you have a time when you're supposed to show up to work, a time when you're supposed to be there. You're told what to wear, all these things, right? And now all of a sudden I'm on my own. So how do I appropriately structure all my time so that I'm giving the most that I can to my job while also balancing that well? And then having to make decisions. Somebody asked me the other day, like, when you travel, like, oh, how often do you travel? Is it you have to travel for work? And I said, honestly, never, which kind of makes it hard because I get to choose when I travel and when I don't, which is a huge blessing, but it also kind of creates a burden. So I'm still probably working through some of that stuff.
Getting to travel thousands of miles is an opportunity not a lot of people get. Mm-hmm. What were your biggest takeaways from active duty? What was that experience like?
One of the huge blessings that I had in where I worked was I got to do a ton of traveling. Some of it was for, my wife and I got to go together and we got to live there. Some of it was spending time overseas with deployments, other things like that where I was alone. But getting to go to different cultures and get kind of opened up my aperture to just different places, right? And different people who think differently, who act differently, who eat different foods. And that was just such a fun experience that I think I've gleaned a lot from over time. Just getting to move, right? And it kind of started small and stair steps for me where, I was born and raised in College Station, Texas. And then I get to go and go to Colorado and spend some time in Colorado, which is not completely different, but different enough than College Station, right? And then from there, I got to go to the Pacific Northwest, and that's very different than Texas if you've ever been up there.
Yes.
And then from there, I got to live in Italy, and in between there, I spent time in Afghanistan and in Kuwait, and all these different places and different cultures. They really just open up your aperture, I think, and so you get to see things from a different perspective and learn that. Even though something's different, doesn't mean that it's necessarily bad or harmful. It's just different.
Yeah. So. What's your favorite aspect of where you are now?
Yeah, that's a pretty broad question, but
sure.
So the greatest accomplishments, I think, probably just some of the things that we've already talked about a little bit, and just in getting to go through and do hard things. Something I like to, I've heard people use in the past, and I like to use with my boys every once in a while. I was like, hey, let's go do hard things. And so, getting to go to the Air Force Academy, and that was something really difficult in my life at that point, and got to persevere and get through that and grow from it, and then going on and being deployed, going through TACP training, tactical air control party in the Air Force, and then going through Ranger School and things like that, and just learning each step of the way. There's something new, something that kind of grows you and broadens your aperture. And after a while, when you're surrounded by people who are doing similar things to you, you kind of grow numb to the fact that those things are growing experiences and good. And so as I've come back, I think gotten out of the military, come back to College Station and get to kind of explain some of these things that I've done. Each time I get to talk about it, I get to learn, frankly, for myself, kind of learn new lessons from those things.
Mm. What are you doing differently now from how you did it originally? What do you think was the biggest thing that wasn't quite optimum or optimized when you first got started that you've tweaked your approach a little bit?
One of the things I've had to grow a lot in is building out my schedule over time, and then communicating that well with my wife too. So, before it was show up and I'm just kind of a doer. So I show up and I get things done as they come up, and I love to accomplish tasks and persevere. If something's hard, I want to sit there and work at it until I figure it out. Yeah. And so having to kind of build my own structure around that has been the challenge, but that's something that I've worked on a lot. I've still got a long way to go for sure.
Outside of Oakmont Group, what are you working on? Is there anything else you're hoping to achieve?
Primarily what I'm focused on right now is definitely growing that business, but also get the opportunity to work on, I'm trying to basically start a side hustle working in the government contracting space. And so, getting to do that on the side from a work perspective has been pretty fun. Just kind of leveraging some of my past experiences and some of the relationships that I've gotten to build now, and building out that business it's just been a fun challenge for me on the outside as well. And then I'm still very involved on the outside, just in my church and trying to serve there, and then there's a couple other like nonprofits and things that I'm starting to kind of get into a little bit. So,
anyone you'd like to send good bull?
Yeah, so I'll send good bull to my wife. Just watching her over this last couple of years, and my oldest just started kindergarten, and we're doing kind of a homeschool thing, and so watching her raise kids and use all of her talents kind of given to raise our kids and start homeschooling. It's been fun to kind of see her as she's grown into those things, and it just takes a lot of humility and a lot of patience, and she's done that with a lot of grace. So I'll give her that good bull.
That's great. Good bull to Katie.
Yeah.
All right, Matthew, thanks so much for joining us today.
Yeah.
We appreciate your time.
All right. Thanks, Ben.